I want to connect more with my wife. I do want genuine depth, but she says she thinks I only want sex. She seems to throw this in my face. This came up on our last call. It's been 2 weeks since we held this call, the C Note show here with myself, Jeff, and Cynthia. And a man asked this question last time, and he wrote to me. This is a piece of his follow-up email. He said, "Thanks for giving me some time on the C Note show today." This was our last call. "You hit the nail on the head that I'm totally stuck on how to make small bids for attention to my wife, who set tough boundaries around being transactional and functional in our marriage." So, Cynthia, I want to ask you what that means. Set tough boundaries around only being transactional and functional in our marriage. It sounds really fun. It's
Yeah.
really sexy and fun, by the way. For example, I foreshadowed that I would like some companionship from her to watch a TV show in February. We both enjoy the show, but her guard is way up because she thinks any individual time with me is just my plan to move towards connection that would ultimately need to be intimate. She hasn't accepted or rejected this bid yet, but I do see it as a test to see how willing and able she currently is to seek some kind of connection. So let's talk about this. Well, first of all, why would a woman set boundaries around being only transactional and functional in marriage? Maybe they're officially separated, maybe not. This is often a limbo situation, right? Still in the same house. So what does that mean to you? Transactional. Why would she set this boundary?
Yeah, to me, it's a glaring wall that she's setting up. But why is the wall? She is protecting herself from feeling certain emotions. So she's making a divide between I don't want to feel anything. I don't want to feel vulnerable. I don't want to feel swayed. I don't want to feel feminine, or maybe in her mind, weak. So if we keep things transactional and functional, maybe just on a physical level or just on a, who's getting the groceries tonight level, there's so much more safety for her in that, or a perceived sense of safety.
Okay, so why is there more safety in that? How do you mean?
Yeah, I think for women, the things that feel really big in their lives are the things that they've attached emotional states toward. And because it's really hard for women to separate a feeling, sense, and emotion from just a regular life event or even part of her to-do list, when she's going about this on purpose, it's almost like she's trying to rein in her own horse, uh, build her own corral, and keep that part of her even ostracized from her own self.
Hmm. So, her own corral, her own. So how are we supposed to reconnect? This guy's ask, how are we supposed to build our relationship if she's got these transactional boundaries and she wants to have her own corral? How are we supposed to rebuild connection?
Yeah, and that's, I think, really, really tough because it probably anything that you do to begin leaning into that and inviting, even in the smallest way, uh, is going to spark in her those feelings of vulnerability or weakness. So she's going to have a big, it takes a lot of energy for her to push that back out and maintain the wall. So it'll feel really intense from her. However, what are you doing when you're inviting connection? If you're with a woman who does want to be in relationship with her, you're actually inviting her out of a jail cell of her own making.
So why is that ultimately a jail cell? I mean, we see this all the time, every single day, every single week, and every month that a woman's backing away. I want to learn to be independent. I lost myself in this relationship. I've been a mother. I've done everything that you wanted. We never have done what I wanted. And now I want independence. And how is that creating her own jail cell?
Yeah, it's I think women do a good job. They can create their own masculine shield or their own boundaries, and it can look like it's working really well for them, but it's not an infinite solution for them. Uh, Eventually, it will wear on her soul. Eventually, it will drain the life out of her. Eventually, she'll feel so numbed out to life that she's miserable. And in that state, there's no one to blame but herself because she's the one who's put her in that own box. I think the gift of masculinity is to witness that and understand why it's happened, but also provide her an avenue out where emotions and feeling sense and the feminine parts of her are not actually something for her to be so afraid of. Because who in life lives a full, wonderful life if they're running 100 miles per hour away from the part of themselves? Like emotions and feelings, she will never be able to sever herself completely from. So, running in fear all the time, running in emotional cutoff all the time will have a draining on her soul and her life force and her happiness.
Yeah, that's well put. And we can't be afraid of her emotions either. So let's talk about this. How some other guys come in. Gentlemen that are here live, how can you relate to this? What questions do you have about this? Are you in a spot where you'd love to connect with her, reach out with her more and you don't know how to take that step? I looked, so raise your hand, punch in the chat as always, guys. We want to talk with you. I like to search Quora to see what an average person might say about this. And this one put, your girlfriend wants sex, but also wants love. Do you listen to her? Do you try to help? Do you have dates with her? Do you cuddle with her? Do you talk with her about things other than sex? You don't have to pretend that you don't want sex. You just need to do other things apart from sex. If you want her just for sex and then do nothing else with her, of course she's going to feel like you just want sex. Tell her you want to cook something with her. Tell her you want to go out and dance with her. Tell her you want to go on an adventure some weekend with her. Ask her if you can help her do things other than sex. A big piece of this call, the man asked that piece of that email was, well, what can I do to have small bits of connection? And then the next question is, well, what happens if she rejects me? And we can talk about that if you guys want to. So raise your hand or come on in. This man put in Corey here, whether your girlfriend realizes or not, she's manipulating you when she says all you want is sex. Every boyfriend wants to have sex with their girlfriend. That's just a fact. Given the offer, we'll usually take it up. No one should be made to feel bad for this. Physical intimacy is an important part of relationship. Then, as you mentioned, if you do not make an advance on her, she criticizes you for not being interested in sex. That's not fair. So this man's calling out, yeah, you definitely should not be shamed for wanting sex, for wanting intimate connection in your relationship. Certainly. And then final example from Cora. Girls think that because sometimes we feel when the relationship gets longer, guys get bored of us and won't have much to say or talk about with us. But when either one talks about sex or sexual stuff, the guy is always so excited and says a lot. This makes us girls feel kind of unloved. Feels like you only want sex with us because you look more excited to talk with us when the subject is about sex. What do you think about that one, Cynthia? I mean, there's truth in all of these, right? That's why I grabbed them and it's why people are saying them. But what about that from a woman that we get excited, that a man gets excited when sex is talked about, and so then she thinks, oh, that's all that he wants. What's maybe some truth in there and what's maybe just perception in there? What would you say?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe the truth in that is when women look for connection, they're looking for a sense of emotional resonance from the other person. Uh, Now that becomes an issue if she's expecting that the emotional resonance that comes from you is exactly like her women friends. Uh, but there is a part of the feminine that feels really heard and seen when she's talking about something exciting. She feels that there's a mirroring in the person across from her that cares about her and is excited for her. So I could see, you know, that she might then assume, well, then all you want is sex because nothing else feels resonant. The downside of this and the more shady side of this is, again, if she's putting you in a box and expecting that connection, intimacy is all like what she would expect another woman could provide in terms of conversation and emotional resonance and chatting. This to then say, well, all you want is sex, and that's the only time, you show up. That's really her making this black and white. It is shaming you, and in a way, it's a great way for her to punish you for her feeling like her needs are not getting met in other
Hmm.
ways.
And she may not even be aware of this. A lot of this is unconscious or old habits.
Yeah, and so, okay, here's where I feel a lot of grief in saying this. If she feels like there's a lot of way her needs are not being met, she feels maybe that you're impenetrable or don't care, whatever the story is, as soon as she feels something in you that might be tender or more vulnerable, that's when the knife is going to come out, and it's almost like, okay, see how it feels. I'm going to hit you where it hurts as
So
well.
why is that? So when you jump there, you might either you're thinking of a situation or that's the dark side of this dynamic. Why is that the case? Why does the knife come out then?
I think that is the dark side of this, but again, it's also of, I don't think that just comes out of nowhere. I think that comes from the dark side of the feminine, comes out when she feels unseen, unheard, unknown, and kind of like the feminine storm. I'm going to create chaos where I can so that something happens, something different.
Hmm. It sounds fun. Create she's gonna create chaos where she can. Who can relate to this? Come on in. Caesar, if you can come on in, please do. Unmute yourself. Randy, haven't seen you in a while. Come on in if you can. Let's talk about this. Who can relate, or what question do you have?
Probably isn't quite as relatable as some people who might be in a marriage, but I was going out with a chick who I feel like she did exactly that. She boxed herself off. She didn't use sex as like a pressure, but um, it was a similar experience where I could sense she was boxing herself off because she'd met one of her own boundaries and didn't know how to like feel loved, so kind of tried to contain me. But it was over political stuff, and like I just felt that experience where I was like, yeah, I don't think she wants to do this because like I can still feel the communication, but I can also feel her trying to like contain me and be like, no, I you can't leave this boxed in area because of that. I can't move, like I can't unstuck myself, like Cynthia's been talking about.
So the idea is what? That she wants to feel safe or she wants to control you? What did it seem like to you that was going on?
Both of those, she was like, I don't know. It sounded like what I heard being communicated was, I don't know how to feel safe myself if I, basically, if I enter a relationship with someone who has different political views than me.
Mm.
And then what was your other? Does she feel safe? And what was your other question? Is she trying to, oh, control me? Right. It was, yeah, it was kind of like that, like she shared a book. She was like, you need to read this. Like people who voted for this person over this person don't understand this. Um, you know, like this is what, like, she explained her whole point of view, to which I was like, it's clearly not about, your point of view. It's about your experience with this. But yeah, so I,
Sure.
I,
So
I think it was the
where
best of
did you
both.
take it from there then? Yeah.
Um, moving into what I want to, who I want to be as a person myself. And so I messaged her back and I was like, well, this isn't about politics to me. Like, that's not why I'm talking to you. Um, and what's important to me, regardless of what you think is important to me based on my political vote, what I know is important to me and I'm confident about is love. Like that's what's important to me. World peace and communicating love to other people. And I was like that, I'm not always going to do a good job of that. And I'm definitely going to need help. and I'm gonna make mistakes, but like, yeah, just trying to refocus it on what's important to me in our dynamic and what's important to me in general over politics.
Yeah, that's well put. You didn't try to defend or change her mind or anything like this, but you shifted it to what you do want in the world, the values that you have, the man that you are. Where did it go from there? I'm curious with her.
Well, not really anywhere, to be honest. Initially when the subject came up on the phone and I was setting a date on the phone, she was like, "Oh, I just don't. I need to think. I don't know if I can go out with someone who voted for. I'll just tell you guys, I voted for Trump." She was very adamant against that. Other people have their opinion, but she was like, "I can't go out with someone who voted for Trump." I said, "Okay, well, think about it, right?" So we put down the phone. I spent some time thinking about this, reflecting on it, and about 2 hours later, I put together a text. And I don't really remember what I said, but it really wasn't defensive, so to speak. It's like, this is who I want to be. It doesn't really matter. Like, it's not about politics. That's when she responded back to me with a very elaborate text and kind of asked her own questions. And the interesting thing was, it didn't look like she was walking away. It just looked like had come up against a wall that she didn't know how to walk past. And that's when I texted back and I was like, this is what's important to me. You know, I know you value all these things. I know you think politically this is what represents all those things. I'm just letting you know that outside of politics, this is what is important to me. Um, this is who I am. If I make mistakes, yada, yada, yada. And then I haven't heard back from her about that. So I'm just going to give her like a week, but yeah,
Yeah, well put, man. Absolutely. I I think it's fantastic that you continue to engage with her, right? You put your heart out there and you see where it's going to go, but you weren't trying to change her mind. That's what I'm hearing.
no, no. I mean, obviously, well, I think there's a part of me that would want her to change her mind, but I think there's also a part of me that doesn't want her to change her mind and just wants her to be who she is and wants her to kind of work with me and trust me and figure out how to like work through this together where we still have our own mindsets but are still focusing on something outside of politics. Like, you can believe what you want about politics, but that doesn't mean you can't be in a relationship with someone. And so I mean, you know, obviously there's exceptions and it could, you know, you got to get specific, I guess, um but I don't remember where I was going with that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
No.
well said. That's well said. I appreciate you jumping in. That's good
Yeah.
stuff. Thanks, man.
Uh, and I got it. That's where what I wanted to add is the process of me stepping into that to answer her messages was, I mean, I felt very, very powerful in a good way. Just so authentic and so honest, and so open and so like indifferent about being vulnerable. And like, I know I definitely put myself out there, and anybody else might have like laughed at that or been like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard a guy say." But like, I'll tell you, I felt like I was in front of an entire army, and I was just inhaling cold air in the morning.
That's
It was
badass.
very
Absolutely.
freeing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're going to move into a space with a woman, into a relationship with a woman, you want her to know what you're about. And that's what you put out there. Yeah, great stuff. Thanks, Barry. Good to see you, man. Come on in. I want you to chat about what you put into the chat here. I've noticed multiple truths seem to be more difficult. Holding multiple truths seem to be more difficult, or maybe held in a different way for women than men. Of course, there's a strong emotional reaction to certain people's character. So holding multiple truths seems to be difficult sometimes. Talk about that.
Yeah, I want to be careful with that because I don't know if it's difficult or it's just held differently, and it'd be interesting to get Cynthia's perspective on this. But I'm a Canadian, so I didn't vote for either of the presidential candidates. But there's been lots of conversations conceptually about like what are the positives of one approach versus another, and the the volatility of even having that conversation in my relationship has been like to the point where it's almost not worth having. And it's just made me wonder like, okay, is it easier for men to distance themselves from like some of the, you know, again, I'll just say this not to elicit a reaction, but like toxic personality characteristics of certain people, and then separately evaluate their approach to a certain issue and kind of rationalize all that. Whereas for a woman, like the safety trigger of like this, I perceive this person as an absolute abhorrent human, and so everything that about them is wrong. Everything they could possibly do is wrong. So anyway, that's what I was trying to get at there, because when Bear was talking, it sounded a bit familiar.
Sure.
So
So
Cynthia, I'd be curious, like what does that ring true from like a men versus women perspective, or
so how about in the context of relationship? What would you say between man and woman?
Yeah, I guess if I can answer first the more social, because that's where my feeling was going into. Gosh, like that makes so much sense what you're saying. And I think there's something, I think our societies are still kind of based on hierarchy of energy. And I do think women are very like the safety, like blaring is they're kind of always measuring where their hierarchy is with each other in social settings, politically. Does that mean, and then they get very self-absorbed. Does that mean something for me in my survival? Where I do feel like the masculine can take a broader view and take in the bigger picture. And it's not this immediate triggered life or death response. So to take that into relationship, I guess to me, that's why the feminine can come across as pretty self-absorbed, even around things like physical intimacy and sex. Because if she's taking all these little elements of relationship and it's only being managed in her own world, her own physical world, her own whatever trigger world she has, and she's not being able to have a bigger picture view. That's why it seems so selfish and self-absorbed. And to me, that's always why, especially when I sit here, I feel the power and the healing element of masculine energy, because it's not wrapped up in the immediacy, the emotionality of what's right here. It can see longer, it can see broader. And masculine and feminine are perfect for each other. And why masculine heals the feminine is it takes the clumped up knot of this is all here and it helps it expand outward, which increases her feeling of safety, even within herself.
I guess it's interesting then because it puts you in a bit of a situation like for the topic of the meeting, like do I tiptoe when an issue like this comes up? Do I try and like tiptoe around it? You know, in Bear's case, like he spoke with his kind of back straight and based on his principles, and there's an impact to that.
Mm.
So it's this interesting kind of juggling act, and like Bear, you're badass the way you handled that. That was awesome. But I think what comes up for me is like, what is the duty of care or the filtering that allows the feminine to feel safe and doesn't get triggered by the fact that like I love Elon Musk, but he's supporting Donald Trump. I'm just giving an example. I'm not trying to have a political discussion. So, anyways, I want to give other guys time, so I'm gonna mute myself.
Sure.
But thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks.
answering.
Good stuff. So, Cynthia, there's a balance to it's not just about offering infinite safety.
Yeah.
Part of her desire requires adventure and stimulation and some taboo and some dark side. What would you say about that piece? That to the point of yes, safety and what else is what else is required within the ingredients within the soup of her desire?
Well, I actually don't think she actually fully feels safety until there is edge and she experiences edge with you. It was really interesting, use the word like tiptoeing around. And it makes me think of tiptoeing kind of reaffirms whatever her story is about things versus when I imagine a man who's placing a foot solidly in the space that you share together, that there is edge there. Uh, your woman gets to feel both the edge of it and maybe something she doesn't like or want or disagrees with, but also the incredible heart, the heartwood of you. And that's when she feels safe because it's the dragon's here, ha. But guess what? The dragon has heart and teeth.
Yeah. And you're not smacking her back down. You're not punishing her for what she feels, right? It's the her wind and rain wash over you and you smile a little bit in the face of that. It's okay, right? Even if you don't appreciate it in the moment, that it's okay. Paul put into the chat, what tends to be super challenging for me is continuing the attempts to connect, but feeling the sting of persistent rejection. On the one hand, I'm simply living my truth and extending opportunities to connect with my wife on something I value greatly, physical intimacy. But on the other, it's exhausting and futile to offer myself to her and to be vulnerable in that context without mutual desire or interest in return. Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to forever want to offer ourselves in these ways. That is what's challenging and can be exhausting, certainly. Yeah, fantastic. Let's take a step forward. I want to speak with another man. I also have some research that I found online. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe or thumbs up if you like what's going on. Check out our stuff if you want to be invited to these free calls or if you want to talk with me about one-on-one paid coaching. We also have other stuff coming, books and a new digital product pretty soon. And so today, of course, my wife thinks I only want sex. There's really three overarching reasons to be in relationships: safety, fun, and growth. And growth would be edge, learning something new, experiencing depth with the other person that you can't on your own. And so, Cynthia, if a woman is only wanting safety, I have these boundaries. Don't touch me. If my man asks me to watch a TV show together, I'm assuming that he wants to escalate this to sex. So all she's worried about is safety. What begins to die inside, either of her or in the relationship that you see, and regarding fun and regarding growth together?
Safety is such a neutral place. Uh, and I would say it's really easy for women to feel like that's the only touch point or achievement, or that's the only thing to have amongst the corral of all the emotions and feelings that she's been having and maybe blaming experiences on you. Uh, Safety is a evolutionary response of as long as we're safe, the we've had children and now you're out fighting the wars and I'm safe, then everyone will survive. But that's not the world we live in anymore. And safety becomes, for the feminine, boring and lackluster. And it's not uh, a place of heightened physical desire. It's a place of um, almost stillness and drinking warm water before bed, instead of drinking the enlivening espresso.
So being enlivened by relationship and life. We'll talk about the results pyramid another time. We speak about that within our private membership group as well and one-on-one coaching. So what can you control? What can you control as a man? Well, I like searching for research as well. This put together by a PhD psychologist, the last minute, no pressure invitation. So one thing men ask is, well, literally, what can I ask? Literally, what can I do? Here's three quick examples. Start with what you're doing anyway. So inviting her to a walk or coffee or to do errands together, go shopping together. Keep it simple. Number two, no reservations, no long, complicated evenings out, keeping it simple, something short and sweet. And number three, saying no pressure and meaning it. When it's easy to say no, a yes becomes about more than obligation or pressure. It reflects a genuine shared desire to connect. So some men, Cynthia, will say, that's so easy and so obvious. I've tried these things. I've asked her for a walk. I've tried to have her hold my hand. I ask her to talk with me, but she seems to really be about these boundaries or really just in the entrenched in believing that I only want to push towards sex. So how do I get through this? How do I surpass this? What would you say?
Your masculine frame, the way you talk about things can totally rewrite the story between the two of you, can give new words to talking about things. And right now, her only language of self, I've got this, is I have a boundary around this. And she has no way to talk about anything beyond that. I would also say I imagine her having these like I have all these boundaries feels really secure for her, and she's not secure and she's not sure yet what's on the other side of this, so she's going to stay with what's familiar.
So let me ask you, one thing I give men as homework is to speak about these things in a more archetypal or metaphoric way, kind of in a story. So for example, you want to put paints on the palette. You want reds and blues and yellows and purples on the palette so that the two of you can dip your brush and spread it on the canvas in some kind of way, whether it's with a brush or your fingers or you're rolling it or whatever it is. And it doesn't need to be right now, but sweetheart, I want to start to paint on the canvas between the two of us. I want to start doing something simple, even if it's finger painting. And how is something like that, where it's more of a metaphor and not trying to explain how watching this TV show doesn't mean that I want to have sex later?
Hmm.
How is using story or metaphor help pass her defensiveness? Or what would you say about that?
Yeah, and I do want to just note to what Paul said that this is, I can't even imagine how exhausting this is to be like, how do I constantly try to bring new to this situation? There is something about the metaphoric language uh, that can really, it speaks to deeper emotion and things, and it allows for creativity. You know, so often, like a woman's thoughts are connected to an image she has in her mind, like the negative image equals the negative thought. And when you're just adding this different kind of image, this the paints on the palette, it really can speak to a deeper part of her brain, her being, and her psyche. And there's everything to be gained there. There's everything to be gained in her creativity, even her creativity with essential expression with you. Uh, it allows for other emotions to have a play. Maybe there's humor instead of this all this serious, dark, and negativity.
Yeah, that's well put. I'm curious, Travis, can you come on in? Travis knows how to, what do you call it? Cowboy energy to play with story, metaphor, and energy. I'm curious. Come on in. And how's that going with you? We haven't spoke about that in a while. Please.
Yeah, no. I think I was going to go a little bit different direction with my thoughts on it, as it pertains to my relationship. But it all goes back to being the mountain lion, to being the cowboy, to being that confident, not a good guy in my mind. Because what really get my wife's, gets her, in the mood, so to speak, is when I'm a confident man myself and I allow space for her to go do the things that fuel her. And in my particular case, it would be when I'm very confident around allowing her to go to a professional event. Oh, this just happened like literally this weekend. An overnight event. Even though she was, only an hour or so away. When I can have a lot of confidence around that, and be like, I got it. You go do your thing. You go fuel yourself. When she comes back from those things or from a week long trip of a professional event or even going to see a girlfriend, um, man, it's a different woman. Now, again, that may be unique to my wife, but I feel at the end of the day, I still find the common denominator is, well, how is that happening? What's changed about me It is. I am living, personifying the mountain lion. I'm genuinely saying, I got this. Go fuel yourself. And I don't even have to ask for sex. It's not like we're having sex all the time. I mean, once a week, that which is great, right? When things line up and everybody's happy. But it's not even an issue anymore as relationship 1.0. It's not, we don't feel the tension. Um, even just being around each other in the bedroom, I can tell with her presence around how free she is with her body. Maybe the degree of undressing, the degree of how much she lets me see that. When she lets me see a lot of it, I know that she's very open to me. Whenever that starts to hide in the closet, or there starts to be a little bit of covering up, I know that she's not feeling really connected to me, and like
Mm.
that's her boundary. There's a lot of unspoken um, communication going on when it comes to sex in our relationship. And so starting to understand that better. And then also for me, again, I just take it back to, what did Jeff say? Put shit on your calendar, be the mountain lion, fuel yourself, have your own agenda, have your own purpose. Go read David Data's book over and over again, figure it out, what your purpose is, and live that. It doesn't mean that I don't sometimes feel insecure.
Right.
She texted me at the last minute last night. Hey, I forgot I got to stay over at work for this journal thing. It's important. This is after a long weekend of her not being here, and I was pissed. I'm like, I've had the kids the whole weekend. I don't care if you come home. I don't want to have sex with you either. I'm just pissed that you're not here. Didn't do that. I said,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'd been sick all weekend, so and she knew that. Like, she knew I was feeling bad. I was just more like, hey, sharing the workload at the house type of situation. Here she was asking again to uh to take a little bit more for herself, right? I just said, I'm good. She knows I'm not going to blow up her phone. I got the kids. I'm doing my thing. She comes home. I was sitting in this chair, actually right here. She comes home and she's running her hand down my chest. We didn't have sex. We went up and got up and go to bed. But she was just much more receptive. I could feel her body language. Even though, if I was to tell you the truth, and what I would say to Jeff in a one-on-one is like, I was pissed. I was ready to go get the kids and just move back to Florida. But I didn't do that, right? I let that urge come and go. And I stayed in the mountain lion zone. So I feel like I lived this situation with her. When this topic came up, I was really interested in it because I feel like that was relationship 1.0. It was like, I always wanted sex and she never did. And and she even had that, we've even had that conversation in the past where she's like, she felt the pressure of, like, if I made a bid for sex, she felt the pressure, like she had to kind of maintain uh the status quo so that I wouldn't be unhappy, so to speak. She felt the pressure of it. And so that just created its own cycle of problems. Right now, it's like, honestly, Jeff, there's really no pressure going on. And things just happen organically. Um, just by me living my own true purpose, if you will.
Yeah, that's well put. When you learn to validate and source your own
Yeah.
hunger, you feed your own heart,
Yeah.
and she doesn't feel like she's obliged. Yeah.
And the security, that I was good. The only thing I'd add is the security that she feels, that she needs to feel, the gatherer back in the meadow, the security that she feels is the emotional security that she's getting, that I'm not going to be a little pussy because she's going to go out of town and on a boondoggle with her old cronies from years ago, and that I'm going to be okay with it if she doesn't text me. And she doesn't. I don't hear from her sometimes for more than 24 hours, which is weird for me because that's not how I am in a relationship. I'm the I love you, check it in, good night. I'm that guy. I had to stop doing that,
Mm.
right? I remember asking you about that. Like, I'm just organically that way. That's the way I was raised. We're constantly checking in. I love using hugs and stuff like that. I just stopped doing that with my wife. Now, again, for those of you who don't know, my wife is Asian. She's from China. So there's probably some cultural stuff going on there too, right? I see her parents all the time. They're not like traditional, right? So there's a cultural piece of that as well that I probably am adjusting to as well.
Right. Yeah. There's two sides to the scale. There's comfort on one side and there's attraction on the other. And if we just pile too much on the side of comfort, then it kills attraction and doesn't give her the opportunity to be attracted. And that depends on culture and expectation and personality and all of this. So that's very well put. And, we could certainly talk about that another time as well. But Travis, I'll say, I love how you practice being in the frame of king and the man that you want to be, even if you have internal turmoil where the little boy, the Peter Pan used to come out right away in the past, and now, he you have him cornered off and you handle him your own self. You don't let him loose on your wife. I love that you're doing that.
And look, guys, I slip up sometimes, right? I make the slip and like, oh shit, I let that out. Sometimes the urge is just the insecure urge. It comes out, and that's the times that we have the micro conflicts that we have. But overall, in general, this is a different way of living in a relationship. It's truly unique from anything that I ever did because I was in other relationships as well. I was married before, for that matter, in other long-term relationships. And I see the pattern now. I see where I fucked up with all these other previous women as well. And it was really based on insecurities.
Yeah. Thanks, Travis. Great stuff. Good to see you. Cynthia, to close us out today, what did you hear from Travis? What are you seeing that he's practicing that is truly grounded so she can feel both safety and attraction for him?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, Travis, listening to you, I feel a solidity in you and your feet firmly planted on the ground. Uh, and just your awareness of what your particular woman needs to source herself and come back is amazing. Uh, and I can also feel like how many windows into her you've kind of perceived. This is part of her, this is part of her, this is part of her upbringing. And it's almost like you keep that in one hand, but then who you are as a man is firmly over here. And that never disappears. And I think that goes back to if we're talking about this energy of safety, what do women respond to most? They respond to like what's you're holding in your right hand. Even though they might spin a story if it's supposed to look somewhere else. And I think that's what's so magic about the sacred, the masculine that you exude is you know that, and then you see her respond to that.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. What's that, Barry?
Holding in your right hand? What do you mean by holding in your right hand?
Oh, I guess it
Like
was,
your values?
yeah, and who you are and what you stand for and the groundedness you have in your own being and how you root yourself to the earth and it doesn't sway no matter what the storm is in the roots of you. And you're allowed to be human. Like the branches sometimes are affected by the winds, but man, that trunk stays still and sturdy and deep in the ground. And when I feel into sacred masculine energy, that's what I feel in you is the roots and the trunk of the tree. And it's a gravitational pull for the feminine.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the extra minute.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys. If you have a question, post in the comments, email us. See you next time. Yeah. Bye, guys.